Hello. We'll get started today in child's pose. A few breaths here to land. You can bring the knees together, maybe knees out wide. And get out any little wiggles that you'd like. See if you can root down into your seat. And try to keep the weight even through both hips. Maybe close the eyes if that feels safe. Begin to draw that attention inwardly as you inhale through the nose. And exhale, let it go. Again, full breath in. Full breath out. Continuing with that breath. Maybe exaggerate the tail ends of the breath. As you inhale, maybe sip in a little more air. And as you exhale, empty the breath out. On your next inhale, we'll lift up through tabletop. We'll take some movement through cat-cow. So as you inhale, you can drop the belly, open up through the chest. Exhale, press the floor away, round through the spine. About 4 or 5 more breaths here. Any other movement, you can peek over one shoulder than the other, hinging side to side, maybe circles through the hips or spine. Maybe even continue to close the eyes if you'd like, allowing the breath to lead the movement. About 2 or 3 more breaths to even out. When you feel about even, we'll pause through center and tabletop. And on your next inhale, we'll reach the right arm up overhead. Exhale, thread the needle, right arm underneath the left shoulder. You can bring the right ear to the mat. Option to keep that left hand grounded in front of the nose. Maybe you extended forward towards the top edge of the mat. Option for a half bind. About 3 to 4 more breaths. When you feel ready, we'll press down into the left hand. You can take a counter twist, open up over towards the right, maybe lift your gaze, any movement through that right arm if you need. Eventually passing through center. If you want to take some movement through cat-cow, maybe one side feels a little different than the other. Eventually, as you're ready, we'll take that to the other side. On your next inhale, left arm will lift. When you're ready, thread the needle, left arm underneath the right shoulder, left ear to mat. Right hand can stay in front of the nose. Option to extend the arm forward towards the top edge of the mat, or maybe find a half bind around the low back. About 3 to 4 more breaths on this side. When you feel about even, begin to unwind. You can take a counter twist, open up over towards the left, maybe some movement through that top arm. Eventually we'll pass back through center, tabletop. Any movement through the spine, maybe shift the weight forward and back, beginning to wake up through the wrists, stretch through the forearms. No rush to get there. We'll meet in child's pose, option for embryo pose, by extending the arms by your sides. We'll take a few breaths here. Again, option to close the eyes, begin to tap in. Notice how you feel in the body, in the mind, and in the breath. 2 more breaths. On your next inhale, we'll lift back up through tabletop. This time we'll step the right foot between the hands, keep the back knee lowered. We'll meet in a low lunge. You can keep the hands grounded if you'd like, maybe to the mat or blocks. Option to bring hands to hips, or maybe find an arm variation, extending the arms up overhead, or you can explore bind. A few breaths here to settle in. Right knee stacked up over right ankle. Maybe a little movement to create a little more opening through the hips. About 2 to 3 more breaths here. If you're not already there, we'll bring our hands to hips. Stack your shoulders over your hips. We'll take a little side bend. So right hand can stay on your hip. Option to bring it down to a block or maybe fingertips to the mat. Left arm will reach up overhead. Pause here for a breath as you inhale, lengthen up. On your exhale, hinge over towards the right. A few breaths here. See if you can draw that left shoulder back, square the collarbone towards the front edge of the mat. On your inhale, lengthen up. And exhale, maybe sink the hips a little deeper if it feels good in the hips. About 2 more breaths. We'll take this into a twist. So restack shoulders over hips. This time, left hand to the inside of the right foot. Right hand will open up towards the sky. Any little movements through the top arm that you'd like. And see if you can inhale, lengthen through the crown of your head. On your exhale, maybe twist a little deeper, working to stack right shoulder over left. And take another full breath in. Full breath out. One more inhale. This time on your exhale, plant the hands, frame your right foot. We'll step that right leg back, lower down knees, chest, chin, come all the way down to the belly as you hug the elbows in tight. Hands underneath the shoulders, baby cobra. Inhale, lift your chest, gazes forward and down, long through the back of the neck. Exhale, release. One more time, inhale, baby cobra. And exhale, release back down towards the earth. Send your hips back, find a child's pose. 2 breaths here. On your next inhale, we'll lift back up through tabletop. We'll take that to the other side. Left foot between the hands, keep the back knee lowered, low crescent lunge. You can keep the hands grounded, maybe hands to hips. Option to extend the arms up overhead if you took that variation. And left knee stacked up over left ankle. Maybe take a couple pulses, about 3 more breaths on this side. Eventually setting up for the side bend. Hands to hips, stack shoulders over hips if you're not already there. Left hand to hip, or maybe hand reaches down to the mat or a block. Right arm reaches up towards the sky. On your exhale, hinge over towards the left. Again, working here to square the collarbone towards the front edge of the mat, so maybe draw that right shoulder back in space. See if you can lengthen up not only through the right ribs, but also through the left. On your exhale, maybe sink the hips a little deeper. One more full breath in. Full breath out. Inhale, we'll come back through center. This time we'll take the twist, right hand to the inside of the left foot. Left arm opens up, maybe lift your gaze. About 3 more breaths here. When you feel about even, we'll plant the hands, frame the left foot. Step that left leg back, lower knees, chest, chin, come all the way down to the belly. This time we'll meet in Sphinx pose. Bring the forearms to the mat. Stack shoulders over elbows. Find about a 90-degree bend in the arms. Press down into the forearms. Maybe lift your chest. Gaze can stay forward or slightly down. Option to add some movement here through the neck and the shoulders, lowering the chin in towards the chest. You can rock ear from shoulder to shoulder, maybe full circles if that feels good in the neck. And option for stillness, you can let the head hang heavy or maybe slide a block underneath the forehead. A few more breaths here. When you're ready, we'll lower all the way back down. You can bring your forearms out in front, rest your forehead to the forearms, bend your knees, windshield wiper the legs side to side, release through the low back. We'll take a second set, option for Sphinx pose again if you'd like, or maybe come into seal pose. Bring your arms to goalpost or cactus. Press into the fingertips. As you inhale, lift the chest, begin to straighten the arms. They don't have to be all the way straight, maybe a slight bend in the elbow. Just coming into a little deeper back bend here. One more full breath in. And on your exhale, releasing all the way down. Hands underneath the shoulders. Send your hips back. We'll meet in a child's pose. Option to tuck the toes underneath you for a toe stretch. You can also bring your hands by your sides for embryo pose to release a little more through the shoulders. About 2 breaths here. And stay here longer if you need. On your next inhale, we'll lift up into a seat. We'll swing the legs out in front. We'll set up for a seated single leg forward fold, janu sirsasana. We'll start by bending the left leg in. So plant the sole of the left foot on the inner right thigh. Right leg will extend out long. On your next inhale, we'll sweep the arms up overhead. And exhale, reaching the chest forward. Hands can reach for shin, ankle, maybe foot. And think about reaching nose to toes, chin to shin. About 4 more breaths here. And take your time. As you're ready, we'll begin to lift back up. Any little movements that you need before we take that to the other side. When you're ready, left leg will extend out long. Inhale, reach the arms up overhead. And on your exhale, reaching the chest forward, forward fold. A few breaths here. Again, think about finding length through the spine as you reach your nose towards your toes. Hands can reach for shin, maybe ankle or foot. About 3 to 4 more breaths. And take your time, slowly begin to lift back up. You can plant the feet, windshield wiper the legs, side to side. Any little movements that you need. Eventually we'll make our way onto our backs. You can hug the legs in towards the chest. Maybe rock side to side, release through the low back. We'll take an eagle leg twist. So bring your legs to tabletop. You can cross your right leg over left. Option to stay here, maybe find a double wrap, wrapping your right foot around your left ankle or calf. Not forcing anything in any direction. Let the legs fall over towards the left. You can keep the gaze up towards the sky or maybe bring it across the right shoulder. A few breaths here. We're about halfway, 3 to 4 more breaths. See if you can let go of any tension anywhere. When you're ready, begin to unravel the legs. You can come back through center. You can hug the legs in towards the chest, maybe find a happy baby, reaching for the soles of the feet. Eventually, we'll take that to the other side. Legs will come to tabletop. You can cross that left leg over right. Option to take that double bind if you have it. Again, not forcing anything in any direction. Eventually, we'll let the legs fall over towards the right. Gaze can lift up or maybe bring it across the left shoulder. A few breaths here. Try to keep both shoulder blades grounded. We're over halfway, about 3 or so breaths. See if you can, with your next exhalation, let something go, maybe surrender, sink a little deeper. When you feel about even, we'll come back through center, unravel the legs. You can bring the legs in towards the chest, maybe find a happy baby. You have an option here for constructive rest or legs up the wall. For constructive rest, you'll plant your feet out wide towards the edges of the mat. Let the knees fall in towards the center. You can bring one hand to chest, one to belly. For legs up the wall, you'll extend the feet up towards the sky. If you have a block, you can set a block underneath the hips or maybe tuck your hands underneath your hips if that feels okay. We'll take about 3 or 4 breaths here. And taking your time, if you're not already there, we'll plant the feet on the mat. You can windshield the legs side to side, any little movements that you need. Eventually, we'll hug the legs in towards the chest. You can reach for the shins or maybe reach over the shins for opposite elbow. Begin to squeeze into a little ball as you inhale. And exhale, release your arms and legs out long. We'll meet in Shavasana. We'll be here for about a minute. If you need extra time, feel free to pause the audio. Otherwise, I will be here to bring you back into the space when it is time. You can choose to stay here longer if you need. If you feel ready to come back to the surface, you can take a full breath in and empty the breath out. Begin to notice the chest rise and fall as air brings movement back to mind and body. If it feels right, you can hug the legs in towards the chest or maybe extend arms up overhead. An option to roll over onto either side and take a few breaths there. And keeping that stillness with you, we'll make our way up into a seat. You can bring hands to heart center, maybe keep the eyes closed if you like. We'll end our class with a single breath. As you inhale, notice as the belly begins to fill, ribs expand, chest lifts. Can you sip in a little more air? Open mouth, let it go. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my practice with you today, and I hope to be with you next time you're on your mat.